In Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, Mephistopheles is described as the Lord of Cania and the second most powerful of archdevils only to Asmodeus himself. Like many devils, he appears humanoid, with large red bat-like wings and horns protruding from his head. He's often lauded as the most powerful wizard of the Hells, and is by his own nature a walking contradiction. Cool-headed and logical on the outside like most wizards, yet underneath filled with the chaotic boiling rage of Hellfire itself. He's an ancient entity who's been around at least as long as Lord Asmodeus, and in this time he has made many bids for power against the Lord of the Hells, failing each time but somehow avoiding direct punishment, and instead having it passed on to his other conspirators. The largest of these conspiracies was an attempted coup and possible civil war of the Hells, in which Mephistopheles drew in Beelzebul, Zariel, Belial, Mammon, and Geryon into an alliance to take over the Hells. In the end, Geryon revealed himself to be an Asmodeus loyalist, and all the other lords of Hell who attempted this coup were punished with curses, stripping of their power, and so forth, except for the mastermind Mephistopheles, who was all but ignored, causing many in the lower planes to question what exactly the relationship is between the most powerful devil in the land and his second who rules over Cania. Regardless, Mephistopheles is a brilliant tactician, whose intellect and charm has kept him ruling the second strongest circle of Hell for eons, and whose brutality and destructive power has kept others from even trying to usurp him. In Minsk and Boo's Journal of Villainy, Mephistopheles has an AC of 21, 460 HP, and a speed of 40 or a fly speed of 100. He has fantastic stats and incredible saving throws, as well as an insanely high charisma-based skill proficiency. He's resistant to acid, cold, and non-magic attacks, as well as immune to fire and poison. He's immune to several conditions and has multiple traits. He can see through magical darkness and can surround himself with the dark flames of hell, dealing 2 to 12 fire damage to anyone he desires within 5 feet. He also doesn't provoke opportunity attacks when he's flying, and his attacks ignore all fire resistance and immunity. He's an innate spellcaster with a myriad of spells he can cast at will, with his dailies being Meteor, Storm, Symbol, and Wish. He has 3 legendary resistances, magic resistance, magical attacks, and regeneration, in which he regains 20 HP on his turn unless hit with radiant damage. As a level 15 wizard, he also has a bunch of wizard spells and spell slots which are being shown on screen now, most of which involve serious damage and deadly consequences for failures on spell saves. When he's not casting a spell, he can use his Hellfire Lash and 2 Ranseur attacks. The Ranseur deals 11 to 29 piercing and 6 to 48 fire or cold damage for a total of 17 to 77 each, which is a grand total of 34 to 154 for both. He can also activate Ashen Teleport to teleport 120 feet, and his Hellfire Lash ability causes a 5-foot radius AoE that procs a DC 22 dex save that, if failed, results in 5 to 40 fire damage. Finally, he can also use his action to summon 1d4 Ice Devils. He also, of course, has legendary actions. For 2 actions, he can unleash Hellfire Storm, an AoE similar to the Hellfire Lash but in a much larger area, dealing 7 to 70 fire damage to those who fail the save. Hellfire Wings causes creatures within 10 feet of him to roll a DC 22 dex save, or else take 3 to 18 damage and be knocked prone. They then also have to make a con save, or else take 3 to 18 fire damage. Finally, he can also use his Ashen Teleport. As a DM, I would use Mephistopheles as an endgame boss in the Hells, and would take full advantage of his wizard powers and incredible mobile nature. I would start any encounter by summoning 1d4 Ice Devils to act as mini tanks, charging down the ranged players, and then have Mephisto close distance with melee players, subjecting them to his Flames of Hell trait. I would have him staying out of range of casters as much as possible at first, focusing on either healers or tanks with spells like Meteor Storm, Fireball, Chain Lightning, and so on, playing him as I would a high-level wizard. Once his spell slots are diminished or he's unable to stay in the backline and out of range, I would have him unleash his brutal side and charge the party, swooping in on his turn to unleash a devastating multi-attack and Hellfire Lash on a player, then flying away, avoiding attacks of opportunity. On the next player's turn, I would have him use Hellfire Storm on healers and casters, dealing large chunks of damage, and then use Hellfire Wings if he's surrounded by melee, or teleport if ranged players are out of his 100-foot flight range. Either way, he should then be positioning himself near the party's healers to take them out, then repeat this flyby attack and Hellfire Storm to whittle away at the party's health. Should it appear as though he's about to lose, I would have him cast Wish to regain all of his spell slots or all of his HP, or something else to do a soft reset on the fight, putting your players at an extreme disadvantage. Hey, who said that fighting the Lord of Cania would be fair? In mythology, Mephistopheles, or Mephisto, is a demon featured first in Germanic folklore, originally appearing in literature as the demon summoned by John Faust in the Faust legend. This tale, based on the actual alchemist and scholar Johann George Faust has the overly ambitious John Faust, a scholar and alchemist, make a deal with the devil. He is successful yet dissatisfied with his life, and so he travels to a crossroads and meets an agent of Lucifer, Mephistopheles, with whom he bargains his mortal soul for unlimited knowledge and worldly pleasures. This tale became the base for many in literature, art, cinema, and music, leading to such tales being classified as Faustian. While the original German tale is pretty straightforward, the retelling of it by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe adds a further complexity. In this arguably most famous version, Faust is granted the knowledge he seeks, but is also aided in seducing the woman of his dreams, Gretchen, by Mephisto. This leads to her life eventually being ruined due to Faust's greed and corruption, culminating in the birth of his illegitimate son, which drives her insane and leads her to drowning the child and being sentenced to death. However, despite her committing the act, Gretchen is allowed into heaven, as her madness and ruined life were really the fault of Faust and his demonic pact. And in Goethe's version, Faust renounces the devil and is spared hellfire, but in the original, he is irrevocably corrupted by his own greed and need for profane, non-divine knowledge, and is therefore sentenced to an eternity in hell. While the details of the different versions change, the structure of the Faust legend remains the same. Faust deals with Mephisto for knowledge and pleasure, and pays for it either with his soul or the loss of all he loves. In the classic versions of the story, however, Faust summons Mephisto, and so many scholars and interpreters of the legend believe that Mephisto as a devil does not come to corrupt pure souls like the others. Instead, he appears to those who are already corrupt, or at least on the road to corruption, and merely helps them along the path to their inevitable damnation. Outside the original legends, Mephistopheles has been used as an agent of the devil or as a version of the devil himself in a variety of media forms, including music, art, literature, comics, movies, television, and so on. In comparing the monster to the myth, we find that the personality of Mephistopheles is very similar to the original myth, in that our D&D devil is an agent of the hells who is charismatic, charming, and intelligent, eager and able to corrupt mortals and doom them to an eternity of serving in the infernal armies of the hells. However, while the original Faust legend relegates Mephistopheles to a crossroads devil and broker of deals, he is a lord of hell and second only to the Lord of the Hells himself, making our Mephisto a much more prominent figure in D&D. If you enjoyed that video, please leave a like and comment below, and consider subscribing to the channel. You can also join the Patreon for $1 a month to access videos days before they're posted here, as well as other exclusive stuff like short stories, videos, and more.